Hello, good people. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to Tpcastt a poem and what does that even mean. So, first thing is, we're going to be using the poem, The Hollow, to break down and break apart. So, Tpcastt is a strategy that we would use and we're going to use when we need to break apart a poem. We're about to answer some questions on it, so we want to make sure we fully understand it. You'll notice that the poem is right below. We have the hollow that you can look through. It's just that one page. And we're going to go down to our questions. So the first T in Tpcastt stands for title. We're going to look at the title and make a prediction. We're going to ask ourselves, what do we think the poem will be about? So if I was answering this, I would type the title of the poem is The Hollow, and I believe that means maybe I'm going to research and see what hollow even means. Just before I even read the poem, I'm going to think about what it might be about. And sometimes we might not know that answer. The title might not give us enough information. And that's okay. We just want to do our best. Next letter is P, and that stands for paraphrase. So we're going to paraphrase each stanza or sentence, and don't worry about looking for meaning at this point. We're just restating the words and what the poet says. So if we would go back up, I would, especially if it looks like this where it's all chunked together, I usually try to group with what makes sense or maybe every 4 lines or so. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I might do a quick paraphrase of what this is saying right here. So it's really breaking apart the poem into smaller chunks that will hopefully help it make a little more sense. So we've done our T, we've done our P, now we're on C, connotation. We're looking for examples of figurative language such as similes, metaphors, hyperboles, personification, labeling them and determining what the poet is trying to imply by using these. So what we would want to do is for today, we'd want to look up and see if we can find any figurative language. For example, we see in line 6, it says, they say the wind seems to call your name. Well, that's an example of personification because the wind can't call your name. They're giving human qualities to it. So down here, down here, I would write that line and I would label what it is. It's personification. And then I need to determine what the poet is trying to imply by using this. What is the poet trying to say? So when I look at that line 6, the wind seems to call your name. Maybe it's a feeling that the wind gives you. It's a chill in the air. You can kind of just figure out what it might be. Next up is attitude. Look at individual words and phrases in the poem. Are they positive, negative, or neutral? And mark these words and phrases with a plus, a minus, or an N. The N is going to be neutral, and neutral means it's not positive, it's not negative, it's just kind of a statement that doesn't impact you any sort of way. So if we were in person and we had this poem printed out in front of us, I would want you to put the plus sign, minus sign, or N next to every single line. For example, the October night was dark and cold. Dark and cold. To me, that's kind of a negative tone to it, right? So I'd put the minus sign. As the autumn sun was going down. Again, that's more of a negative. And I would just kind of go through and do the same thing. For y'all, what I want you to do is try to find examples of positive, negative, or neutral lines in the poem. So, oops, sorry, I keep scrolling so silly on this. So again, just give me a few examples for the attitude, and just list them here. I'd say you could do it by stanza, so you could break it apart every 4 lines if you want, your choice. Next thing is shifts. We're going to look at where we marked our attitude signs, and did we notice any shifts in tone or word choice? Did it go from negative, negative, negative to positive? Did it switch in any way? And maybe there were no shifts. Some poems don't have a shift, many do. So do we notice a shift? And by marking our attitude in it, not our attitude, but the poet's attitude, by marking that, it's easier to see the shifts. And we're going to try to identify them. And then why do we think the author included these shifts? Were they just changing the storyline? What's going on in those? So after that, we are going to look at the title. We're looking at it again. So we've done TPCAS. Now we're at the title again. Relook at that title, and does it have a different meaning than what we originally predicted? And why do we think the poet chose this title? So at this point, we've now read the poem. When we first looked at the title, we hadn't read the poem at all, but now we've read it, and we should have a better idea of why this title was chosen, and we want to think about it because the poet did choose this title for a reason. And lastly, we're going to look at for theme. What do we think the theme of this poem is? And why do we think this? You know, when poets write their poetry, they write it for a reason. And they want us to take something away. And it's important whenever we read something that we can identify what that purpose is. All right. So that is how you Tpcastt, you guys. It is an awesome strategy that helps us out when it comes to poetry. And if you need any questions or any extra help, let me know. Have a great day. And it's always a great day to be a ranger.